Hi, my name's Jasmine Munns, and I'm the president at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland Student Union. This is my second and final year doing this job. So what we have been doing right now is we're offering free online sports classes to our students and staff. So at the moment it's yoga and Pilates, but we're also asking if anyone will be interested in tango lessons as well, and having those done online. We did have a week prepared for last week before COVID-19 hit, which was focused on giving students kind of the skills once they graduate in terms of writing application forms for funding, and also kind of stress and performance anxiety workshops as well. So we have managed to kind of replicate the majority of those sessions for online. So in a few weeks, we're going to have online activities such as having a talk about taxes and about being a freelancer with an accountant. We will still have a workshop about performance anxiety, an insight into what it is, and strategies that students can use to kind of manage uncertainty and worry, which I think is a more kind of general thing for, especially nowadays, but then specifically performance anxiety. Attracting funding in these challenging times as well, and writing funding applications so that, because money is actually quite scarce at the moment, still writing an effective funding application for future work. A guide to support freelancers during COVID-19, because it's not often very clear what support freelancers can do, and the nature of a lot of the courses that students study on at RCS, a lot of them will go into freelance work. So it's important that they're clear about what support is available to them, either once they leave, or a lot of them would have had freelance work during the summer, for example, and all of that's been cancelled, so they need to know what support is available to them. And also we have a panel discussion called A Future Without the Fringe. So a lot of people will use the Fringe not only as performance assessment for a couple of our courses, but also as a chance to network and to kind of show new works, and to really use that as a launch pad for their career. So we'll have some industry experts in just to talk about how else people can make new connections and to launch collaborations and to launch their own companies as well.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, so it seems like a lot of the stuff that would have already been kind of taking place at the moment is still able to continue. Have you found it easy to translate that into kind of a digital format, or has there been any kind of challenges in doing that?
It's not been as challenging as I thought it would be. I think one thing that we're slightly struggling with at the moment is because we're not in the building, we're not able to directly communicate with students, and they're receiving a lot of information at this point in time. They'll be very selective about the emails and messages that they read, so trying to keep students updated with what help is still available. So a lot of our counsellors are offering online or over the phone counselling, and that is something that we're trying to really push, and to remind students that this is something that is still available if they need to talk to anyone at any time. As well as just keeping everyone updated with the work that we're doing or any developments, and sometimes it can be quite hard.
Yeah, and you mentioned also that you're bringing in some professionals to help with the kind of changing circumstances, for example, with the Fringe. How did you find that whole process of kind of evaluating the situation and then kind of looking at the possible solutions, for instance?
So I did a lot of work with our research and knowledge exchange department. So this is very much a collaboration between the Students' Union and the research knowledge exchange department. I think for the activities that we're offering, especially during this week, which I think is starting on May the 11th, we always wanted to offer a week of activities which focused on what to do next, And I think even before COVID-19's kind of put everyone in their homes and kind of put things to a halt, I think there's already a certain amount of anxiety that students can feel with what's happening, what's going to happen next, what can I do once I leave the conservatoire and I don't have those resources, and I don't really have that comfort anymore. So it's something that we've always wanted to do, but I think in light of current circumstances, we have had to change the format of a few of our sessions, but I think it actually works out quite well. And hopefully students will feel a bit more reassured and have some new ideas as to how they can actually progress in this new environment.
So how do we prepare for the long-term impact COVID-19 will have next year?
So I think hopefully with the events that I've just mentioned, they will definitely help with especially graduates in leaving the conservatoire and trying to move on and to kind of make their way through the world, and especially through the creative sector. I think it's really important that staff and students, especially kind of the staff and students union, are really working together and communicating right now, because I think this whole situation has thrown everyone off guard, and no one expected it, and no one really knew how best to prepare for it with all the best one in the world. So I think that communication between these two bodies, just to make sure that all viewpoints are being put on the table, and that we all know that we're in the same boat and just striving together towards the shared solution. I think that's probably the best way to go forward, and just accepting that COVID-19 will have a long-term impact on our students, even if they're staying here.
Yeah, I think so too. And has there been any issues with kind of like the general time, or like the timeline of courses, for instance, that will COVID-19 will have an impact on, for instance, and has that brought to like kind of changes that you have to think about for next year, do you think?
I think it's strange because even though we are a small specialist institution, we have so many different specialisms in the conservatoire. So I think the way that this has affected students, especially because the nature of most of the assessments is that they will be done live,
right.
Either through performances or demonstrations or rehearsals and collaboration with other musicians or with other artists. So I think that has definitely had quite a profound impact on the way that students are now approaching their work and the way that they're being assessed. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of students that have actually unfortunately lost out on opportunities, such as being able to perform at the Fringe, and performances that have been cancelled that students could have otherwise used to boost their CV, which maybe could have helped them a little bit more once they kind of go into the professional world or they're looking for freelance work. I think that the focus now for a lot of courses is not necessarily on what we've lost, but what can we do during this time, and really encouraging students to do a lot of reflection and improving on the skills that they've been developing throughout the year as well, and just really trying to be positive about the time that students have now to be able to do so, should hopefully their circumstances allow it.
Yeah, it's really good to kind of shed a positive light on circumstances, even if it seems like it's bleak. But you seem like you're doing a really good job on that front.
Thank you.
So how do you support the students we might not have had contact with previously?
So I think more than ever, the students' union, any students' union has to really use their council and use the representative systems that they have in place. So I know that I'm really urging all of my course representatives and liberations officers to really keep in touch with their groups and with their cohorts, and just to reassure students that we are still running, even though the building's not open. But also there are plenty of people who can offer support and maybe some advice should they need it. And also we're doing quite a lot of work, and we're having quite a few discussions with our equality and diversity officer, because they are sending us a lot of information, such as there was a paper that was written, or a kind of a report written, which shared the issues that the AME students are facing, for example, and what institutions can really do to support their students. And I think one of the most important things, especially, is asking staff to be as flexible and sympathetic as possible for their students, and not questioning the sincerity of students who are asking for a bit more flexibility or a bit of extra support. And I think there are quite a few departments that, because of the nature of their work, because they usually have extremely packed days, full of rehearsals or full of work. Now COVID-19 has kind of ground that to a halt in a lot of ways. They do have a lot more time during the day. I think taking this opportunity now to kind of reach out to them or say that we are here, and this is what we can do for you.
Yeah. And what about what are your thoughts on students that don't really engage with the students' union that much, or aren't part of kind of representative bodies? Do you have any kind of ideas or thoughts on how to kind of, I suppose, make them aware that everything is still running, and how to kind of contact them?
So I've tried to keep updating students as much as possible. I think, as I mentioned earlier, maybe email isn't really the best medium right now. So what I was also thinking of doing was having a weekly session where I would send a Zoom link, and anyone could come in, and if they wanted to know what we were doing, or if they wanted to ask any questions, that either I could answer in the moment, or that I could take forward and ask the appropriate staff member. It might also just be an opportunity for people just to see each other and say hi, and just to have a bit more of a personable connection that way, rather than just sending out an email or a Facebook post that may go unseen.
Yeah, of course. And how do you think it's best to kind of signpost for students then, if kind of email is one of the methods that can be quite overwhelming at the moment? Do you think that methods like Zoom are the most useful, like a useful tool, for instance?
I think Zoom has been very helpful so far, especially with our sports classes. And I think if we utilise the ones that have kind of garnered the biggest audience, and maybe slip in there that if anyone needs to talk, if anyone is still requiring their CBT sessions, that is still a possibility. And I think the Conservatoire as well, through this new platform that they have called RTS at Home, they have also been publishing well-being blogs as well, and within that they remind students that this support is still available to them. So I think if both parts are peddling that, then hopefully the message will get out there and it will reach more people.